So, we got here a nice, we got here some beautiful elk meat. So I make a consomme today. Okay? I have here 8 egg whites in here, celery, carrots, and leeks, tomato paste. And I'm mixing this up here, okay? I'm mixing this up real good. Ideally, it should sit for 2 hours in the refrigerator with some ice. Keeps the meat nice and cold. Here's my stock. It's pretty brown. Usually it would be looking lighter in the color. I'm putting in here my clarification meat, my raft as we call it. And I'm putting in here, that stock is beef stock and chicken stock together. Now we turn on the heat. And we start stirring. It will take a while to really heat up because we have some ice cubes in there and it's all very cold. But the first thing is you want to really stir it around very well. Bay leaf, maybe 2. Peppercorns, allspice, and juniper berries. You have to be careful that it doesn't get too gamey, right? When we do consommes, sometimes we have stocks that are not colorful enough, okay? So we have to get an amber color to it, deep, nice amber color. It can't look like dishwasher water, you know, light brown or whatever. It should get a nice amber color. And then a good quality consomme is when you taste the consomme and you taste it, your lips start sticking together. That means it's very strong in protein, okay? So, when the consomme has a scorched flavor that comes from somebody put the consomme on the stove, turned on the fire, and forgot to stir. He may comes back after a while and stirs it around a little bit, but the poor protein from the egg whites have settled to the bottom. And at the moment it congratulates, and that doesn't mean that the stock is already hot, sits to the metal, and then maybe the person has a rubber spoon or whatever, or a spatula, and not a metal one, and he can feel it, that it's actually the protein stuck to the bottom. And then when you cook it long and long, it starts to be burnt. And that gives a very scorched flavor. It's ugly. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't clarify it, you have to throw the whole thing out. You can't get the flavor out of it, okay? Now, in case I don't have a colorful enough stock, all I have to do is make an onion brulee. Okay, I'm making some slices of onions, and I literally burn the onions on the griddle. They will get completely black, right? 4 of them should be enough for that color. So that's a whole little process here, right? What about my consomme doesn't get clarified? What do I do? You take the whole draft, don't throw it away, mix in more egg whites, let it sit overnight, and then clarify it the next day. You can't do it right away, okay? When I see there's a little bit some smoke developing here, right? I'm steering it around with my spoon, making sure that I can feel on the bottom that's metal to metal. I can feel it, okay? That's getting hot. The next thing I want to show you is the proper way of doing a stewing without a recipe. Brentagnon, the dish, lamb Brentagnon. You know where it is? It's a northwestern corner of France, very poor country. It's pretty much not very much wine going on. Agriculture, yeah. It's a little bit like Ireland. So what I want to show you over here is, quickly, I need for my stew always some flavoring ingredients. So we're talking about a mirepoix, right? And for that I need carrots, celery, onions. Now I can make that stew with a matignon or with a mirepoix, but I have to actually take out of it because it's not perfectly cut or nicely. Or I can make a mirepoix, what is a matignon, but it is a nicely cut garnish for my stew. Okay, there's my knife. For a matignon, I could cut it all nicely in quarters, right? Or I can cut some nice little triangles. Peasant style. A little bit larger. I'm making here a nice, interesting cut for my flavoring ingredient, right? There's one. Here's my celery. Same thing with this. But when I use bacon, I can use less butter or fat. Now my onions I will cut it all in big dice. One larger one, right? Just matching up my carrots. That's enough. Have some butter here. Putting a little bit some butter here. To start out my bacon. Now I'm slowly roasting this here, right? Now in my meat, with my meat. The meat for stewing, I'm using a tougher kind of a cut of meat, okay? I'm using a little bit some garlic. I'm using a little bit some rosemary. Salt. And pepper. I mix this up here. Now that's very important that you spice your meat and your fish and your poultry before you sear it off. Otherwise, all that stuff repels itself. And you have a very salty sauce. And the meat tastes not very good, okay? Now, how much flour to use? I just put in enough flour so I have to every cube nicely dusted with it. This gives me enough flour to thicken my fluid, okay? Now say I'm using here on this water and wine, but there's no color. What do I have to do? I'm browning off very heavily my meat. What's happening when I'm browning off my meat and it gets brown with the flour on it? What's happening? I made a brown roux basically. I burned my flour. And then it tastes very gritty, right? So my color doesn't come from searing off my meat. So where's my color coming from? What? No, not from the flour. To get something brown, I need some caramelization. Caramelization happens only with sugar, okay? So where's my sugar? Walla Walla Sweets, you ever heard about that? Huh? Onions, right? Anything that has some high sugar content, right? I will get it more from the onions than from my carrots or celery, right? So I have to roast this here nicely. So my meat, actually, I don't brown off at all. All I do is I sear it off. And it's easy to see what is still raw meat and what's already browned off. So you have to turn them. Don't burn the flour on your meat. Then you don't get it thick enough. So this here is gentle cooking, right? Now here the roasting goes nice and slowly. The next thing I need is the proper container to braise my meat in, okay? This here, when you put something, you braise it in a pot like this big. Look at how much scoop you have and how big the surface is, right? What is when I cover it, as how it says, 3/4 to the top with fluid. And I put it in one like this. I'm diluting my flavor from my meat, okay? It's all leached out. There's nothing more there, okay? How more water I put in there, how more I'm diluting my flavor out from the lamb, and you don't taste anything anymore, okay? So now I'm putting in a little bit some garlic to this, and my rosemary. So now I'm putting this in here, making sure that I don't have any excess fat. Okay, can you see how everything fits in here nicely? Yep. So a little bit some white wine. Takes a nice little dried one. So now I'm putting a little bit some tomato paste to it. Not too much. White wine to glaze it. A little bit more. Reduced it down 3 times, basically. Then I'm adding in my tomato concasse. And there you can see already how nicely brown the whole sauce is, right? Here I'm getting my color from. So then I add just some water to it. And I want to be careful that I'm not using too much. When you do this, you want to use, to hot stock, you want to use always cold water. Here comes my tomato concasse. Here's my lamb. I put this in here. I really don't need too much water in there. Check it out, how much water I'm putting in here. The tomato will give me some juice, so I have to be very careful, right? That would be it. I put in there maybe an ounce or 2 ounces, that's it, no more. Okay? You see how much everything is still sticking out of there? All right? Now that's very important. And I'm not putting up water up to the top because I feel like this is how much it is. It's very simple with a stew. You take a spoon and you spoon it onto a plate, that's it. Or you put it in a pot, or you put it in a casserole, or whatever. That's what a stew is. So I don't need more sauce, it's just barely that everything is covered, okay? Now the next important thing is, because it's cold water, I have some new items in there, I have to bring it to a boil. I have my oven preset to 375. And now you see how it's boiling already. All right, I'm using here my griddle. You see how it boils? Lid on top of it. Wait for maybe 5 or 10 seconds so it keeps boiling and build up the heat. And then I put it in my oven on the bottom shelf. And turn on my heat, bottom shelf. So the most heat comes from the bottom and then from the side. A very well-fitting lid is very important. When you do this with a foil and you put some foil over there, you will have your sauce steam coming out and it will reduce in there and then it gets really bad. When you boil your cubes on the stove for too long, it starts toughening up. It gets really tough. And then you have to add another half an hour to it to cook it, okay? So it's only simmering, and it's gentle, slow cooking in the oven. It's very, very difficult, because whatever I have put in my casserole here, or in my brazier with the lid on, nothing I can take out. I can fix 2 things. I can fix the flavor of my sauce. I couldn't fix anymore the flavor of my meat. I could fix my thickness of the sauce in case it got too thin. I can go in my cooler, get a little bit some roux, and work it in. But then I have to take all the meat out, and then it becomes a tedious process. Because such a thing you may cook in a big, huge tilt fryer for like 500 people or 600 people, okay? Oh, very nice. I'm checking the color. So before and after, huh? This is the color before. Now this here, I will be putting on the side into my consomme. So it's picking it up, the color. All right. Okay. Most of the rolling heat comes up from the side, doesn't come up from the center. Okay. You see how more grayish that looks like compared to this one here? There's a little hint of red to it, right? Now how would I finish this here? A venison consomme. Madeira. Port wine. Now it gets tough, right? I could put in some port wine, I can put in some white wine, I could put in some Madeira. I could put in a little bit some mushroom essence to give me even a little bit more of the flavor from the venison, right? As you know, it's a lamb stew, right? I did with water as well, correct? Come and taste it.